And
Oh, okay, start over.
okay, I'm Natasha,
I'm Ayana.
I'm Alexis.
and we did motivation. A lot of us know motivation as the thing that keeps us going, hopefully the thing that gets our homework done on time and to keep us working and keep going. The actual definition is a set of energetic forces that originates both within and outside an employee. So, why are some employees more motivated than others? The expectancy theory describes that cognitive process that employees go through to make choices among different voluntary responses. So expectancy it represents the belief that exerting high level of effort will result in the successful performance of some task. So what shapes expectancy? Self-efficiency is the belief that a person has the capabilities needed to execute the behaviors required for task success. So when employees consider levels of a given task, they always think of their past experiences or past accomplishments, various experiences, like if they already dealt with a sort of task somewhat like it, their verbal persuasion, and their emotional cues.
So valence is anticipated value of the outcomes associated with performance. It can be positive, negative, or zero. A positive valence would be salary increases, bonuses, and informal rewards. So I would prefer having outcome X to not having it. A negative valence would be demotions, terminations, and disciplinary actions. It would, for example, it would be I would prefer not having outcome X to having it. And a zero valence would be I'm bored. Are we still talking about outcome X? Needs kind of associated with having positive outcomes. So needs, the definition is outcomes are deemed as cognitive groupings or clusters of outcomes that are viewed as having critical psychological or physiological sequences. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Certain needs are universal across people. It's likely that different people have different need hierarchies that they use to evaluate potential outcomes. Here's a chart that was in the book that shows like commonly studied needs. So for one of them, it would be existence, and an alternative to label to that would be a physiological or safety. Oh, I gotta read off this thing. I can see it. So the need for the food, shelter, safety, and protection required for human existence. Esteem could be another need, and an alternative for that would be self-regard or growth. And the description would be the need to hold a high evaluation of oneself and to feel effective and respected by others. Motivational force, it increases accessible performance, which increases attractive outcomes. So expectancy will lead to, I don't even know what that means, positive outcomes. And extrinsic outcomes is the desire to put forth work effort due to some contingency that depends on task performance, such as pay, bonuses, promotions, benefits and perks, spot awards, praise, job security, support, and free time. Intrinsic outcomes is the motivation that is felt when task performance serves as its own reward, such as enjoyment, interestingness, accomplishment, knowledge gain, personal expression, lack of boredom, anxiety, and frustration.
Okay, so another motivational force will be the equity theory, and that acknowledges that motivation doesn't just depend on your own beliefs and circumstances, but what happens to other people. So employees will create a mental ledger, so an account of tallies of the outcomes for their job duties. So the more contributions and investments that you put, the more rewards you expect to get. And you keep mental tallies by comparing the ratio of outcomes and inputs to the ratio of some comparison other In other words, another person who seems to provide an integral frame of reference for judging equity. And so a chart of outcomes, the charts of outcomes and inputs by the equity theory. So the more effort, performance, skills, ability, education, seniority, you get more workplace perks, satisfying supervision, status symbols, fringe benefits, pay, intrinsic rewards, and seniority benefits. And so a frame of judging equity would be your ratio of outcomes to inputs is a balance between you and your comparison to other. So it's a sense of equity felt and more likely to maintain the intensity and persistence of your work. So an example would be the boss just gave me a similar tough assignment. She emailed me and said if I finish this on time, I can use the company's playoff tickets, and then you will be playoff tickets. I need to check the email after all. So it's showing equity between you and your comparison other. And then judging equity would be the ratio would be less than your comparison other ratio, and that imbalance triggers equity distress, and that is internal tension that can only be where's the rest? Oh no, the rest could be alleviated through. It got cut off somewhere. Okay, it takes form in negative emotions, the anger and envy, and the actions are destructive rather than constructive. And research shows that inequity are among the strongest predictors of counterproductive behaviors. An example can be employee theft, or coming in late, or calling in a lot. And some solutions to that would be constructive and proactive by talking to your boss and explain why you deserve better outcomes for your work, and shrink your inputs by lowering the intensity and persistence of effort. And the last ratio will be greater than your comparison other. So that's getting rewarded with no outputs. Basically, you're working and you're getting overpaid. And a cognitive distortion, and that causes a reevaluation of the inputs an employee brings to a job in response to equity distress. And that can cause negative emotions such as guilt or anxiety and equity distress. And some solutions will be shrinking your outcomes, so taking less money and give it back to the company. And you can increase your inputs or increase the intensity and persistence of your task effort, or decide to engage in more extra miles and citizenship behaviors, or increase inputs and rethinking your mental ledger to see if you undersold your true contributions. And or it cannot be any problem in your education or seniority and skills or inabilities are more vital to an organization than you thought. Okay. So another motivation is psychological empowerment, and that reflects the energy rooted in the belief that tasks are contributing to some larger purpose. And one factor is meaningfulness, and it's fostered when work goals appeal to the employees. And how you can build up meaningfulness is identifying and clarifying your own passions within the company. And self-determination is another one. You have a sense of choice regarding work tasks. So you gain that by earning trust of your bosses and negotiating for the latitude that comes with the increased trust. And competence is you feel capable of performing a job successfully, and that's engaging in self-directed learning, seeking feedback from managers, and managing your own workload. And the impact is you feel like you're making progress towards fulfilling your purpose. So collaborative relationships are needed to attain this, the speed task process, and initiating your own celebrations of small wins along the way. So goal setting is another motivational force, and is creating task strategies to help learn plans and problem solve to succeed. And it's having a challenging assignment that helps set goals and shape your own self-set goals. And you have feedback, that's having someone update on the group's process, task complexity, having someone who can analyze the situation and determining how the task truly is, how challenging the task truly is, staying goal committed, having everyone committed, and staying determined. In a goal setting theory is the feedback, then task complexity, the goal commitment, and then it's the specific and difficult assigned goals. Then it's a self-set goal, and then statistic or effort, persistent or effort, or task strategies. Then it leads to the ultimate task performance.
Goal commitment is basically someone can understand the goal and is fully determined to finish it. So strategies would be rewards, publicity, support, participation, and resources. So SMART goals. Managers trained to set goals for their employees. S being specific, M measurement, A achievable, R result based, and T time sensitive. And then that's
We're done.
Anybody have any questions or comments? You hit some really, I think, very key points, especially about needs and wants. And it's motivating and inspiring. It's very difficult to do unless you know what your employees' wants and needs are. And there's actually a connection here to those of you in my management 300 class when we talk about identifying needs and wants of customers. That's how you can satisfy and delight customers. That's actually really an effective strategy to think about in your organizations as leaders. If you're comprehensively applying the organizational behavior model, you're actually marketing to your employees because you want to be aware of what their needs and wants are to create a satisfying experience. Because if you don't know, and it's the same again in marketing, if you don't know your customer, how can you satisfy the customer? By the same token, if you don't really know your employees, how can you make sure they're satisfied? If you don't know what's important to them. And that actually starts with the hiring process by making sure that you're hiring employees whose values align, that person or organization fit. Taking it one step further, again, how can you really motivate an employee well if you don't really know them well? So the value of making sure you are engaged with your workforce, making sure that you're paying attention and being observant to the things that they want. If maybe they're not performing at a level, what's going on there, being attentive to those things. But it all comes down to, and again, this is a marketing concept, but it's so applicable right here, is creating value. If you create value for your employees, they're going to be motivated to work for you. And that's going to correspond into higher performance, higher commitment, and more profitability for your company. Okay? Think about the things that make your job satisfying or even dissatisfying. For any of you that are just really dissatisfied with your job, think about the reasons why you are. 9 times out of 10, it's going to link directly to management and ineffective leadership. Okay? And I always like to make that distinction between managing and leading. And I know I say it all the time, but it's so two different animals that I want you guys to think of yourself as leaders. Because of management class, you guys are leaders, and it carries a whole different feeling with it. Going over the commonly studied needs in organizational behavior is really important. And again, it goes directly to identifying employee needs and wants. Very good job there. Talking about the psychological empowerment, what meaningful work is. And that's kind of a challenge you can think of. If you try to make work meaningful, especially if you, let's say you're a manager in a department where a lot of your employees do routine tasks. How do you make that meaningful? You can. You gotta be kind of creative about it. But if somebody is doing the same thing over and over again, it kind of loses its meaning after a while. So trying to find ways to make it more meaningful and rewarding. I like the SMART goals thing, and I think it's a great segue into going into our self-leadership thing. So I want you guys to think about even just like take a picture of that or something, or go back to the YouTube video when I sent out the links, because this is actually going to be really helpful when you guys do goal setting in our self-leadership workshop coming up. And you also talked about intrinsic motivation. That's where we talked about that in self-leadership. So it's really great that those things came out. Okay, good job, ladies. Thank you. And thank you for being so flexible and not knowing about that absolute number. You guys handled it by chance. Really good. Okay.
My name is Amanda.
Oh, my name is Alma.
I'm Jordan.
And I'm Megan.
And unfortunately, Laura couldn't be here with us today. But our individual mechanism that we talked about was motivation. And before we get started, I'm going to give you a fun little short Amanda lesson on history and what that the history of motivation. So around the Industrial Revolution, granted, I'm really bad as far as like a timeline of things, but I want to say it was like the early 1800s. We didn't really start thinking about how to motivate employees until about that time. Now, when you think Industrial Revolution, think about conditions of, and you have to think about the mass production of how things were moving in terms of the industries and what was going on. So we had factories that were popping up, lots of people working in cramped conditions, very dirty, unsanitary, unhygienic workplaces to be working in, pollution. So you have to think about how horrible those circumstances were. I mean, we didn't have OSHA, we didn't really have a lot of unions or anything to help workers' rights or anything like that. So it wasn't until around that time that we started thinking, maybe we should start providing better lighting in these factories. Maybe we should get rid of the rats and all the things that are crawling around on the floor. Maybe we should provide healthier environments for our employees. Maybe we should cut back on their hours and not have them working to the bone until they end up from not showing up to work from sickness and dying. So that's when we really started looking at motivation with our employees and how we can get them more invested in their work and help increase their productivity. Because when you're working in a really cruddy environment, it's not going to motivate you to be productive and to perform at your highest abilities. And from there, Laura, like I said, she's not here today. So what she did is she recorded her voice, and she's going to be talking about one of the first contemporary theories in terms of motivation as a little bit of an introduction. And she's going to start with Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Hey, hello everyone, my name is Laura, and I'm going to explain to you what this graphic is. This graphic is the content theory of human motivation. It compares how hierarchy of needs are represented in employees at the workplace. The model is divided into two sections. On your left side, we see Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and on your right side, we see Frederick Herzberg's two-factor theory. These two theories focus on the importance of what motivates us. In other words, they try to identify what our needs are and how they relate to motivation to fulfill those needs. On the right side, with Herzberg's motivation two-factor theory, we have the basic needs as an employee, which is the hygiene factors. This means when the worker has good working conditions, safety, excellent relationship with peers, personal life, relationship with subordinators, a good status, security, and so on. This is represented in the graphic of Maslow as the basic needs, such as ecology, safety, security, and love and belonging. Then from the green color to the yellow color, we have the motivators. This means achievement, recognition, work itself, responsibility, advancement in the workplace, and growth. This is represented in the left side as the Maslow hierarchy of needs as esteem and self-actualization.
All right, so then on this slide, she's going to build again. So she started off talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs a little bit, and she's going to elaborate a little bit more in terms of the Herzberg two-factor theory and how that relates to Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
In the next slide, we have what happens if these two factors theory are combined with one another. So this is going to be combined with two possible combinations for each one. For the first one is what happens if we have high hygiene and high motivation. So as a result, the ideal situation where employees are highly motivated and have few complaints. High hygiene plus low motivation, employees have few complaints, but they are not highly motivated. They only see the job as a paycheck. The next one is low hygiene plus high motivation. Employees are motivated but have a lot of complaints. This is where the situation is when the job is very exciting and challenging, but the salaries and work conditions are not up to par. And the last one is low hygiene plus low motivation. This is the worst situation where employees are not motivated and have many complaints.
All right. So again, just to reiterate what she was talking about with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So Abraham Maslow came out with this theory in 1943, and there's 5 stages to that pyramid. Physiological being the basis for the pyramid. So our needs including food, water, shelter. The second tier was safety in terms of meeting our safety needs, whether it be from like a natural disaster or self-defense, protecting yourself. The third tier was love and belonging, having that sense of human connection and feeling that you belong to a group, or feeling that sense of love from your family and friends. The fourth tier above that was esteem, so how you think about yourself, how you view yourself around others. And then the final tier and the highest tier out of all of them is self-actualization. So your awareness of your abilities and knowing that you can succeed and knowing that you can motivate yourself to go above and beyond. So this is taking a little bit of a different turn. It's still kind of built upon Maslow's hierarchy of needs in terms of the needs that motivate us. So Douglas McGregor in 1960 came out with Theory X and Theory Y. If you look on the left side, the Theory X has a very authoritative view on how to manage your employees. So Theory X states that it views the employees as though they avoid responsibility, that they constantly need their hands held and need to be provided direction, and they find that the employees are very dependent upon their instruction. They need to use control and force, and in order to produce the results that they want out of their employees. They require constant supervision, and they have to be bribed or enticed in order to produce the results that they want. Whereas Theory Y, it's looking more at a relaxed view of management. So they see that their employees can take full responsibility for their work, and that they're self-motivated, they can set their own goals. Little direction and instruction is provided because, again, their workers take full responsibility for themselves. They seek and accept the responsibility, and they take pride in it, and they creative problem solve and accept the challenges and the work that's given to them because they're motivated. And then this last one, this one's more of an elaboration off of that Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So as time progressed, we still use the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but every social scientist kind of built upon Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So with David McClelland, again, he built upon Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but he said that there were 3 main motivators. He kind of altered it a little bit. He said that it was based off of a need for achievement, a need of affiliation, and a need of power, and we all have one of those main motivators that drives us to be successful. And then we incorporated our mission statement because we talked about motivation. And we said that Ladies of Victory and Encouragement is dedicated to motivating, guiding, and empowering each other as a team through learning connections, activities outside of campus, and laughter. We share a deep commitment to hard work, to achieve group objectives, and to belong as a team. So basically, again, everything that we talked about.
So, in our little book, there was a page that talked about 7 different tips for motivating employees. The first one was to set a good example within the workplace. Focus on employee happiness rather than employee motivation. Make sure that the employees share in the company's success. And create a culture of autonomy and agency. and encourage workers to voice their complaints and take on fun volunteer assignments. I also found a couple of interesting facts about our topic, and it says that the average human being has an inherent dislike of work and will avoid it if he can. The average human being prefers to be directed, wishes to avoid responsibility, and has relatively little ambition and wants security above all. And the average human being learns under proper conditions not only to accept but to seek responsibility within the work environment.
So, since we've been talking about motivation, I wanted to give some real life examples of how companies are motivating their employees. And here's just some examples. So, companies that offer free food is Google, Dropbox, Facebook. Companies that offer free ride to work is Google, Procter & Gamble. And companies that let you bring your pets to work is Google, Airbnb, and then Facebook gives paid daycare. So here's more detail for each specific company. So Google provides sleep pods for employees to take naps. They have guest speakers. They've had Obama come in and just speak to the employees. Google employees also are able to test new products before they're released. They also obtain free massage credits if they did a good job or they did really well in a project. And they also offer free fitness classes in gyms. Dropbox offers free lunch. They set up your ideal workstation, so when you're a new employee, they let you pick what you want to have in your office or cubicle. They give you generous time off. They like to they have a creative office environment so that you can be efficient and productive. And they also give you days off for you to volunteer. And Facebook, they give you $4,000 in baby expenses for those who have newborn babies. They give you $3,000 for annual for babysitting expenses. They give you free meals all day, so breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And they pay 100% for your insurance. They even have barbers on campus. And they give you a $700 subsidy for gym membership.
Okay, so basically I kind of wanted to give you guys like a global perspective on how managers or leaders will motivate their employees. So a major difference between US citizens and Europeans is you guys live to work, whereas we work to live. So leaders have to do a lot more work back home to motivate employees because basically most of the time people go to work so they can eat, so they can pay for their heating or their electric or something. So we chose this company. It's called the Titanic Creative Management. It was the winner of the Best New Business Award in 2016 at the Belfast Business Awards. And basically what it does, it specialises in special effects, general makeup artistry, filmography, like set design and stuff for film companies, and it also offers courses at a cheaper rate for those who kind of want to go into that industry. So the mission statement says, we believe that working together will far surpass any results achieved from, what does that say? Working alone. That's why we have developed our members' areas to build stronger bonds and a sense of community within the creative industries in Northern Ireland. So, as you can see from the reviews, which I just sort of like plucked off the website, they have a great sort of reputation with the customer base. In terms of how they motivate their employees now, what they do is, again, kind of going back to, the theory X and theory Y, is they sort of, invoke passion from their employees. So a lot of the time these people can go in, these sort of creative people, and obviously in this sort of industry, it's very, very insecure. However, they've been able to create like this secure work environment for these people to, to kind of like engage in their passions and also kind of reach out to the wider community by teaching courses and stuff. So on the next slide here, I've kind of like plucked out some things from their social media. So basically, I personally know the social media marketer of this company, and yeah, basically, they've got life begins at the end of your comfort zone. We are flexible with our payment plans, which is very important in motivating your employees and stuff. And also, they also sort of like engage in a lot of like staff activities. So they'll have like staff birthday parties. They will they will have sort of like motivational quotes up around the sort of studio and their offices and stuff, which makes for a bit of a different sort of working environment. So basically, in the European context, whereby people aren't as motivated and they're not very passionate about their jobs generally, Titanic Creative Management really stand out in this regard because they've sort of successfully managed to kind of bind, passion, reaching out to the community with, creating like a quantitative sort of successful business as well. And we just thought this was, very, very interesting. And I know personally for me, because I'm sort of into, theatre arts and film arts and things like that, I'm very excited to see the progress of this company in the future. And that's it.
Questions, comments?
It's funny how both we had the same topic, but they were like two completely different perspectives.
Yeah.
And I think I'm a psych major, so some of the stuff I already knew for like the hierarchy of needs and stuff, and how you put that with motivation, that was very creative.
Thank you.
I think I need to work for one of those companies. Maybe Facebook.
Yeah, and I must have disconnected somewhere when I set these up, so I apologize if that was too motivation and too stress. But I mean, it's neat though. I think it made me with a happy accident because of the 5, if I pick just 3 for you guys to present, it would be motivation, stress, and satisfaction. Because the other 2, not that they're not important, but they are kind of byproducts of doing these 3 mechanisms, or I should say, affecting these 3 mechanisms. So to have a more comprehensive view of motivation and stress, I think, is actually very valuable. I kind of like the way things work out. I'm kind of glad I screwed up. So, but a couple of observations. One of the things I wanted to see if you guys are kind of making a connection. All the presentations so far talks about needs and wants. That's just talking about again about identifying that, making sure you're addressing that, which goes to the 3 different needs concepts, the needs and wants concepts between Maslow, McGregor, and McClellan. I'm really glad you chose to use those frameworks because I think they're very, very effective.
Two-vector theory too.
And they do go to, especially resilience, about achievement, affiliation, and power. If you think about those things and how you recognize and connect with those things in and out of the workplace. We all like to feel that we achieve something. We all like to feel like we're affiliated, we belong to something. And when you talk about power, I think it's not even about control. We feel better about ourselves when we feel like we're in control of something, which is sort of what you guys understand, like existentialism, and knowing who you really are and having control over your life. Come on in. And I love the fact that you did a global perspective. I'm really glad that you included that. I was kind of secretly hoping that you would do that. I'm glad I didn't overtly tell you to do it, so I'm glad you did. But to see that even in European companies, they're concerned about motivating employees, but especially in that culture, like you said, you made a great point. How we live to work and you guys work to live. So it is probably more challenging.
It's so true as well.
To get because the work day and the work hours are so much shorter, to get as much out of your employees as you can to do it in a strategic, sustainable way. So very good job. There's one other thing I wanted to make sure I pointed out. I guess just actually talking about the intrinsic nature of motivation. One of the reasons I wanted to do this going into the self-leadership workshop we're going to be doing in 2 weeks is because intrinsic motivation is such a huge part of self-leading. And when the reading that you're going to do over the next 2 weeks, that's going to unfold and reveal itself, and you'll be able to put it into practice when we do our workshop. So excellent job. Alrighty, do you guys mind going after the library presentation?